it comes to the Peach State.
Yeah, certainly. And, you know, according to the group's website, they're expecting the crowds to gather at these demonstrations all throughout the day into the afternoon. And let's take a look at the rally happening in downtown Atlanta. This is unfolding at the Atlanta Civic Center. This is the main rally happening here in Georgia. This is the main one in downtown Atlanta happening.
Yeah, in fact, the city of Atlanta just giving a permit days ago to allow these folks to assemble. They said that they host about 300 protests every year in Atlanta. So nothing new to the city. In fact, Atlanta has a rich history, really, when it comes to protesting. Go back to the civil rights era and even around 2020 with the George Floyd protest. A lot certainly changing in the 70 years since the civil rights era when it comes to assembling and your right to protest. In fact, we're going to be talking with a security analyst here in the next half hour about how you manage large-scale events like this from a law enforcement perspective. Of course, the goal to keep everything peaceful. You heard that from the organizers this morning. It's the same goal of law enforcement on the other side of things as well. And then a little later this morning, we're also going to be speaking with the Georgia Republican chairman, talking about their perspective of things, because we heard from House Speaker Mike Johnson this week, who said that this is the Hate America rally, and that's kind of the verbiage that we're hearing from many on the right.
Yeah, and we also heard from the Trump administration, the president calling the protests lawless. And this is all happening in the midst of a government shutdown. So it will be interesting to speak to that security analyst about how this plays into with the government shutdown, this mass demonstration, any federal law enforcement officers working, you know, of course, without pay in the midst of this. But I do understand that state and city law enforcement will be involved in helping these demonstrators walk from the Civic Center to the state capitol. And we're seeing some of the same images and very similar signs that we saw at the demonstration back in June. We see balloons, we see people dressed up as a unicorn, we see the signs that people are holding an American flag. As Seth says, she spoke to one of those demonstrators and he says he wants to make it clear that he is pro-American. So we're going to see a lot of interesting signs today. I saw when people were walking into the gates, probably around 9:30 this morning, they were handing out signs and flags. And that's what you typically see at a lot of these demonstrations that we cover. They're prepared. They really just want to make sure their message is shown. They want to hold these signs. They want to make sure they're letting people know that this is a democracy and this is their right to demonstrate and to protest. Right now, we are looking at the stage where we are expecting to hear from speakers throughout this demonstration. Before they start walking, we're expected to hear music at this demonstration. So it won't just all be about their message. It's about bringing this community together in this time with a central message, Dan.
You know, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said something similar this week, saying, you know, we're a democracy in America. We have no kings, and said that this No Kings rally over the weekend is what America is all about. And you're seeing folks exercising their First Amendment right today with some of those American flags and signs getting their message across. Back in June, a lot of this was anti-ICE. We saw immigration raids really being at the forefront of things earlier this summer. And a lot has changed between June and now with what folks are focusing on. Ariana mentioned the government shutdown we're in the midst of right now. Government workers going on another week without pay. And you're also seeing the National Guard sent into cities across the country by the president, and some of these protesters taking issue with that. So it'll be interesting to see once they start speaking. They have the No King stage there. What kind of message they really hone in on? Is it going to be mostly anti-immigration? Is it going to be against some of those, what they perceive as an overreach by the Trump administration to send these troops into American cities? Or is it going to be a little bit of everything? Yeah,
and Dan, taking a broader scope, looking across the country, you mentioned about 5 million Americans showed up at the last protest that happened in June, but they're saying that today's rally is likely going to surpass the number of people that we saw show up for that rally. And they say they really want to see as many people come out to these demonstrations. They're trying to hold these rallies across the country at least 1 hour drive from any American. So any person that may want to participate, they have the option to. At least 2,500 individual rallies have been registered on the organization's website across the country. And Republicans, as we mentioned, we're going to hear from the GOP chairman. We want to hear their perspective on this because they're calling this a radical demonstration. So it'll be interesting to hear their perspective as these demonstrations play out across the day. And we really want to hear their perspective, of course, as we are going to hear from those speakers that will take the stage, because we've really been at the forefront of the government shutdown, hearing both sides really be vocal about where they stand. So it is a lot happening at this current moment when we are participating and watching this demonstration play out today.
Yeah, you know, when we heard House Speaker Mike Johnson this week referring to it as the Hate America rally, he mentioned, you know, saying today's going to bring in the Marxists, the socialists, and Antifa. But then he heard the organizer of the rally go on national news this week and said that if you actually say the name of the protest, No Kings, the entire argument falls apart. So that was her rebuttal to some of Speaker Johnson's comments this week.
Yeah, and we're going to continue to have live coverage of these demonstrations all throughout the morning. In a moment, we're going to be able to listen to some of those speakers as they take the stage.